3, 2, 1. Woo! Welcome back to episode 42 of the savepoint
the Cod Pass.
The Cod Pass, the Savepoint podcast. This week, it's only actually me and the Barockinator.
Yeah, Ben's not here this week, unfortunately.
Hello. Yeah, been a big week for Ben, so we'll let him rest. But when the puppies go to sleep, the big boys come out to play. Isn't that right, big dog?
Sure.
Actually, that's a bit more fitting. There's actually a fair bit that happened this week.
A lot, yeah.
There's been a fair bit. There's actually a good topic I want to talk about. Would have been nice to have him here, but that's all right.
We can save it for when he's back.
No. It's got to do with one of the big things that's happened.
Okay.
And the big thing that's happened, if you know me, can you please pass me that thing behind you there, Brock?
Oh, sure can.
Yeah, thank you. My Lord and Savior, Hideo Kojima, has released his newest magnum opus. He has multiple magnum opuses. Please put that back. It is Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Woo!
Yeah, it seems to be getting accolades all over the place. Like,
yeah, it's been getting good reviews. I've said this before on the podcast. I said this is also what my approach to MGS3 remake or Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. I deliberately tried to go in blind.
Yes.
I looked at a few of the trailers. I saw one. I don't know if you saw the one that came out about 2 months ago, and it showed off one of the villains, and it looked like, what the fuck? Are they just doing Solid Snake in...
The one that starts with him sort of talking to, I guess, his wife.
No, maybe, I don't know, but it's, I forget what the audio was, but there's a guy who wraps a bandana around his head, and his face, like, flickers between being a real face and then a skull and a few things.
It rings a bell. Yeah,
it was a couple of weeks ago, but...
The one I'm thinking of, it starts with him being, like, interrogated, and then he's talking to someone who, like, is either his partner or his wife or someone, and, like, he's explaining why he was doing what he was doing.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen that one, but that was the only thing I basically saw about this game.
Yeah.
I knew about some pre-order bonuses and some other things just from stuff I couldn't avoid. So I went into this game. I've been playing it. Story-wise... It's Kojima. I think he's gone a bit too loose with Death Stranding. Like there's a lot of craziness. A lot of it's really good. A lot of it's like, yeah, whatever.
I tried to describe, like, to be like upfront.
Yep.
I have not played either of them.
Yep.
But I've read a whole shit about them just because,
I'm sorry. This is one of those games where reading it
isn't enough.
Even watching it started playing it the other night. And the lizard was there over, and she was like, "Oh, I want to know the story of this," because she really gets into lore of things. We looked at in the main menu. There was a like previously on thing. It didn't explain like 95% of things. So we watched a 19-minute recap video, and I'm like, that skipped so much.
Yes, I am well aware of, like, I'm missing a lot of stuff, but I've gone, like, trawled through the wiki. I've read a whole bunch of different things on it. So, like, I know the bare outlines of the story, and I know the rough sort of, like, hey, this is what the world of this game is. Yeah,
the general vibe, yeah.
I tried to describe it. I was in a Discord call with Ben and a few other people last night, and someone asked us, hey, what's the game about? Both of us had a go of describing the rough story. I'm fairly certain they came away far more confused.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those stories, like, it's a Kojima story, first up.
Yeah.
It's convoluted as all get out. Still an amazing story, but it is one of those things where unless you sit down and experience it, you just trying to describe it sounds
insane.
Completely unhinged.
See, I think with Metal Gear, it was a lot more contained in a way more digestible way that made more sense.
Yes.
And people complain about, like, what do you mean there's multiple snakes? And it's too confusing. It's really not that hard when you actually look at it and know what's chronological and things like that. There's like outer lore, because he loves like to go super in depth into stuff that starts getting a bit like, oh, well, really, this and that. And there's really big plot points in Metal Gear or connections between people that are barely ever explained. So there's people I know that are like, what the fuck? This person's actually this person's son, and like, what?
Yeah.
And like stuff you'd never know. I mean, obviously, if you're obsessed with it, you're gonna know. But Death Stranding is very much like, I'm just gonna make an encyclopedia of stuff and try and push it out in the world and make this world. It's a fun game. One thing I don't like that Kojima has been doing for the last about 10, 15 years now is, first of all, he's a director. He loves movies. That's his persona. He loves. Yeah. I think there's a quote saying that I'm 40% human, 60% movies. He loves movies.
Not to cut you off, but isn't he usually like when they talk about him, isn't it usually director Hideo Kojima? Like,
no,
it's rarely developer Hideo Kojima.
Oh well, he's a developer. It's usually saying Hideo Kojima game.
He's a game director.
Yeah. Back in the day, he did stuff when everyone did stuff at Konami, and he does a couple of things, but yeah, he's more of like an auteur. But
yeah, he's a visionary.
Yeah, he is. He loves movies, but the problem with that is that, good on him, he's become a lot more popular in the public eye, like a lot more average people know him. He just loves to shoehorn in celebrities into these games now.
Yeah, I was reading a few of them though. Apparently some of them weren't just his idea. Apparently a lot of people came and approached him and asked to be added into his next game.
Yeah.
Because they loved it, and he was all for it.
Yeah, no, there's things where it's like, that's cool. Like, it's a really unique experience where there's celebrities in this game and it doesn't feel like it's out of place. It really doesn't. But I also would really like to have unique characters.
Yes.
Because when every single person in the main cast is like a somewhat name, established person.
A-list actor?
Yeah, like, I mean, your main character is Norman Reedus. Everyone's known that for yonks. Like, he was in the first game as the main character. He's the main character in this one. You've got, I'm forgetting her name, who plays...
Fragile.
Yeah, I'm surprised you got it.
I told you I was reading all the stuff.
She was a Bond girl. She's been in heaps of stuff.
I can't remember her name.
She does a good job in this. She's got that inflection, because I think she's French or something like. She's got an inflection in the game, but she's not acting like it's a game and not putting effort in, which is really refreshing to see. Some of the other people are really good in this new game. You've got like a hub base that you can go around in. The pilot of it's like a ship thing.
Yeah.
The pilot of it is, the voice isn't, but the face model and the scan is George Miller, the director of Mad Max.
Yep.
And Babe. I think, did you do Babe as well? No, Mad Max and Happy Feet and a couple other things.
Yeah.
But it's George Miller. Guillermo del Toro was main character in the first game. Not to spoil it, he's not in the second game as much.
I can't remember what the
Mads Mikkelsen is there.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
I love Mads, and I think I really grew to love him more from the first game. Not that he had like a super.
He's one of those actors.
Roles.
Not to divert too much from Death Stranding. He is one of those actors who I think is very much typecast in terms of he makes a great villain.
Yes, no, you are not wrong.
I know he would probably do quite well if you could get him as like, hey, we want him to be a good guy, but he can't be a main character good guy. He'd have to be like, hey, we're going to have a spy agency. He's one of the directors, but he's always going to be like...
Well, he was the bad guy
in the Bond films.
In Casino Royale, but he was also, I forget the name, because I think he's Polish. I don't remember. He's
true,
Scandinavian, somewhere around there.
Yeah, but
he did a movie like a year or two ago that he was just like a normal guy or something, and it got stellar reviews. There's a famous scene of him like dancing in the street with all these people, like pouring champagne all over himself. And it was really well like directed.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to check that. Yeah. But I mean, in my mind, you can't really cast him in any sort of role that's going to be, hey, we need the audience to just always trust he's a good guy. Any role you put him in, if you put him in like, hey, he's going to be director of the CIA or whatever, just as an example, Every single scene he's in, there's always, just the way he acts and the way he, like his presence. It's always going to be, oh, can we fully trust him, or is he going to turn on us? That's the sort of presence
he can play
brings.
both, because there's been a few bits of media I've seen Mads Mikkelsen in where he is perceived as the bad guy and then turns out to be the good guy, and you've got immense empathy for him.
Well, I mean, going back to Death Stranding, the previous game.
I didn't want to spoil it, but that was in that as well.
The game's been, look, it's like when people
it was
try
a while
and spoil Final Fantasy VII. Like, it's been out for yonks.
Yeah, true. It's been out for a while.
Aerith dies. Get over it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really wish that he went back to, like, I feel like some of the characters can be a bit more interesting in Metal Gear because they're not limited to having, oh, this is this famous person. And also there was a really big hindrance with MGS5 when they replaced, oh my God, I can't believe David Hayter, who plays Snake, and he played Snake through every game except for Metal Gear Solid 5, and they got Keith Sutherland to play Snake. From, if you don't know Keith Sutherland, he was the main guy from 24. He was in Lost Boys, if you want to go back a long time. He's been in a few things. I don't mind him.
And he's a good actor.
He is, but
he was just different.
And he wasn't pulling out too much weight for that game. He doesn't talk much in it. It was a different vibe, and it sucked.
It'd be like if you played through the first 2 Witcher games and then for Witcher 3 they'd replaced, I can't remember the voice actor for Geralt, unfortunately. I should remember it. But yeah, if they'd replaced him for the 3rd Witcher game, it would have been a very different. Like, I mean, he has such a distinct growl in his voice
that you can argue somewhat thematic reasons why they could say that they got Keith Sutherland in, but also can be contradicted with other stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot more extreme case with this one because David Hayter was super popular, super well known, loves the series, really loves the series. And there's a famous story with David Hayter, the guy who does Snake, is when Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes was coming out for GameCube, which was in 2002 or 2001 or something like that. I think it was 2001. So it's a remake of the first game, which came out in 98.
Yeah, just with a bit more cohesive.
Well, it was on the MGS2 engine and on the GameCube. It looks way better than the first game. It's not better than the first game, but it looks better. They were going to get the old cast back, but they were like, no, we don't want to pay the money for it. So David Hayter cut his salary in half so he could get the other actors in.
See, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's a good guy. Like, people really like David Hayter. He got a little bit sour about not being cast as Snake again, which I understand because he was Snake for like 15 years. Yeah. And people love him and he's done a really good job. So yeah, there was that. And also, when he first started doing Snake, he was like an unknown voice actor. None of them were credited on that first game. It was back in the day with a lot of the Union stuff. So the there's some famous voice actors in that first game. So he's not really known for doing much other voice acting stuff. Known for other stuff, which I'll say in a second. But Paul Leading is Colonel Campbell, who's like Grandpa Max and Ben 10, and like super famous voice. People know his voice when you have see him. What's her name? Who plays Naomi? There's another famous voice actor, Jennifer Hale.
Oh,
she plays. Wow, okay, she plays Naomi, which is one of the main characters in the
Femshep.
Yeah. Yes. And there's a couple other people in that game, and it's like, well, they weren't known at that time, and then obviously. Sorry,
if you aren't sure who Femshep is, the female voice for Commander Shepard from the Mass Effect series.
Yes.
Yes, also the voice of Sheba from Tales of Symphonia.
She's in heaps of stuff. Not as much these days, but was a big voice actor back in the day. Yeah, I mean, like, they were big names, and I mean, now they are, but they weren't back then. But he like cut his salary and things like that. I thought that was really good, and it also another thing that really shows how much of a good guy bloody David Hayter is that he always put 110% into playing Snake. Kojima actually didn't really like him that much. He didn't really like him, and there was apparently a lot of stories of he had to re-audition for like 2 or 3 of the games multiple times, and they're like, no, we just not. Because I think
that's kind of.
I think the reason that he got a bit pissed is that there's a few stories with Metal Gear. I know we're jumping between stuff, but one of the stories is that in the original Metal Gear Solid, it obviously got one of the actual writers of it who localized it. A lot of the terms didn't really make sense in English.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a lot of liberties and changed things. But it's one of the only localizations ever where people are like, they prefer the localization to the original. He made up concepts and called things different things in the game, which have been adapted into the mainline series. Like, for example, the codec. I don't think it was called the codec in Japanese. This guy brought it in.
Like
yeah,
he did.
He did like immense research on like military tech and military books. Kojima liked a lot of the stuff and brought it into the games, but apparently there was a couple of things that got changed that he didn't like. Cut this guy out, and I think something to do with David Hayter might have been the same. Like he might have had things that like, I think the character should do this, and people really liked, and Kojima didn't like that, and now it's synonymous with certain things.
Yeah,
that's from what I've known. Apparently I think David Hayter's supposed to, he's fairly negotiable and fairly nice.
I find that interesting where, like, you're saying that the localization, people prefer it to the original. Because the only other thing I'm not going to say how accurate this is, but the only other thing I can think of where the localization is more popular than the original, and I'm sure there's a few, but the only one I can think of straight away off the top of my head is Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah. A lot of those Ghibli movies, because people had passion in it. Another one is, I don't know if you ever heard of Ghost Stories.
We've talked about. Yeah. I wouldn't say that people prefer.
Yes, they do, because that show's a piece of shit without it. It's a dumb kid show. It's a
piece of shit with it.
No, it's supposed to be dumb and stupid. It is insane. Ghost Stories is a very good anime.
I don't understand how they got that past the censors, honestly.
It's because they went to go for Ghost Stories. They were told it was like super cheap. They didn't want to localize it or anything. Yeah. So when they got the licensing rights, they're like, can we do whatever they want? And they were like, sure, we don't care about this show. So they turned it into like a comedy.
Do we want to give them a quick rundown of...
Ghost Stories is an anime that was like, it's about 24, 25 episodes or something. It was late 2000s. And it's like a kid's show about like these kids finding ghosts in Japan, and...
It's like they're like an amateur detective club, weren't they?
Sort of. I don't know. I don't know the original story.
I haven't seen it in years. I will preface with.
I don't know the original story, but basically, and they like dispel ghosts and like a Scooby-Doo sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you could guess. But in the English translation, because no one cared about this show in Japan, it failed, it flopped, whatever. They sold the rights, they're super cheap. They're like, fuck it, let's make a dumb show. They made the most racy, over the top like show out of this kids show, like kids are saying like fuck off you dumb cunt, like shit like that. There's like very on the line like racial jokes.
Yes, there's really a meme scene that goes around every now and then where it's literally they're trying to train another kid to run or something.
There's a little kid that's running around.
The bigger kid screams at him, run like you're being chased by an angry black man or something.
Pretend there's a big black man behind you.
Yeah,
or something like that. And the kid starts sprinting, and it's a lot of stuff like that.
Very rough stuff you would not get away with.
Recurring joke where like the younger kid on the show, they act like he's got special needs, and like they'll like say something to him, and he'll just go like, and then he'll speak normal, but let's do that, and I was like, oh, you're a R word, and things like that. I
don't remember that.
There's heaps of it, man. There's like super cuts.
I mean, again, I haven't watched it in like 15, 16 years, but
yeah.
Oh God.
It's a cool idea. I like that they did it. It's cool that they take a shit show and they're like, let's try and make something out of this.
Yeah. Have you ever watched was it Kung Pao Enter the Tongue or something?
I think I've heard about that. There's a few movies like that.
Yeah, used to watch it all the time, and now I can't even remember what the name of it was.
That's like oh fuck, what's that show? You know, Takeshi's Castle in Japan? Was it NTX or where they made like an extreme game show thing in
Yeah,
in America,
they redubbed it in English and
but made it over the top, and it made it like people like really were into it.
Yeah, this Kung Pao show was they reshot a couple of scenes, but for the most part, it is an old, I think Korean film that didn't do too well, and they just cut all the movie to like cut all the scenes apart and then rearranged them and redubbed over the top and just digitized in new actors and made it like a sort of kung fu parody film. Yeah, it's like Kung Pao Enter the Tongue or something.
Something like that.
Go have a look at it.
We're getting really distracted. I'll go back to the first tangent, but I was going to say, fun fact you might not know, David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake and Naked Snake and Old Snake or whatever.
Yep.
He's actually a fairly prolific screenwriter for some famous movies. He wrote the first 2 X-Men movies.
Really?
Yeah, and he also wrote Watchmen.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So he did a lot of writing, and that's what I was going to say. He was really committed to the character of Snake, gave it 110%. He was doing that while he was also writing some major movies. To be fair, I don't think he's done anywhere near his big stuff in the last 10, 15 years. But in that early to mid-2000s, he wrote some big stuff. He did the first 2, I think. I think he did the good ones.
The first two X-Men films, yeah.
But no, he's really good. I think was one of the best voice acting roles, and especially going through those games, he gives really good emotion, especially in 4. I know people will clown on certain things, but it's also the directing of what Kojima wants. But he does a really good job with it. He's iconic for a reason. People know who he is.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to Death Stranding. So I didn't look at anything about the game besides that trailer I saw a couple months ago and some pre-order stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know till like about a day before the game came out. It's set in Australia.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
I mean, there's a little bit at the start that's in Mexico, but 90% of the game is set in Australia, which is really cool. You just don't see that in media.
Yeah, you were saying that it's probably, particularly here in Australia, probably going to pick up sales for it once people find that out.
Yeah, and also, one thing I will say, props off to Kojima and Koji Pro, so Kojima Productions. This has been one of the most accurate representations of Australia in regards to accents and also dialogue. They aren't just spurting out random Australian, like obscure
stuff that we
slang that people don't actually say, like Shrimp or the Barbie. They're saying legitimate stuff that you would hear people down the street say, and they're also not, at least in my experience so far, not shoehorning it down your throat.
Sorry, I'm giggling because now I'm just imagining like every 30 minutes there's just in the distance, "Bang off, you can't." Like just some, like stuff that we would hear walking down the street. Like, I know you're not referencing that.
Well, for example, like the guy who does the voice acting for the main, like the commander, not the commander, the pilot of the ship, who it's got George Miller's face. He's got an Australian accent, obviously, and like you go into the ship and you're going to go to your quarters and you over the loudspeaker he's like, "Oh, you're going to go over Kip."
Oh, yeah.
Like stuff like that where it's not too like in your face and like.
Okay, here's the question: do they say "g'day"? Because I think that would be.
I don't know.
That's
if
kind of taking the piss. I feel when
I don't know if they
try and
actually
shoehorn that in.
Not that I can remember. No, they might have.
Because that's like the joke about Australians that we say "g'day, mate." I don't think I've heard anyone say "g'day" in the last 10 years.
No, I definitely see.
Not without
people,
not taking the piss.
Mate,
for sure. I've heard people.
I say mate all the time.
Yeah,
I say mate. I've probably said mate about 5 times today before we started recording.
Yeah.
No, but there's a lot of slang and lingo that is very Australian, that is commonly used. All the accents are really good. They're not over the top. They are obviously Australian voice actors, and it's really good to hear. And I'm really impressed with it because, at least as an Australian, for the rest of the world, this probably doesn't matter, but it doesn't take me out of it. And in a lot of Australian media, a lot of Australian media that people who are Australian watch, they get so sucked out of it because most people do an Australian accent that is terrible and it is not accurate at all, and it just sucks you out of it. British people see the same things, but a lot of the time it's nowhere near as prevalent as the Australian one.
Yeah, look, I don't think we're alone in this. I have a feeling that like you'd find pretty much every country, like even America, as.
But I feel like Australia's always that one where they get it really bad.
Yes, but I mean, Scotland, Britain, America to some extent, like any place that has a distinct accent, I have a feeling that when you start doing a TV show, a game, any sort of media that's set in that location, if it's going overseas, if it's not a local production, if it's being distributed overseas, they will emphasize those parts to the point where it's not recognizable by the locals as, hey, this was here.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, I'm just really glad that Kojima Productions have done this. They have very much done their proper research, which has always been a thing with Metal Gear. He's always been very, very on it and not going super realistic with mechanics wise, but realistic enough that it's like, oh, that's a cool little feature. Like he's reloading the gun in this certain way that people in the real world would, but in most games you see him pop out in these other weird sense. I mean, I'm getting a bit over the top there, but I'm very impressed with the voice acting and the authenticity with the Australian culture that's even pushed through.
I'm happy to hear that, because it's always sad when you get excited for something like that, and then you find out that it's either been hyped up too much or it's been overdone to the point it just becomes a caricature of what it was originally.
I think I'm just gushing a lot because it is the only thing that is an export that is so intrinsically tied around Australia that has been done properly that I can think of in a long, long time.
Yeah, last thing I can think of export-wise would be, Round the Twist was the last thing we had.
No, that was I guess import. I mean, I'm not saying exporter from here. I'm saying someone overseas making something so intrinsically involved and tied up with Australia and it being authentic.
Authentic, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really good plus. This game is just more of the same. If you didn't like Death Stranding 1, you won't like Death Stranding 2. If you were like, yeah, it's all right, or you liked it, you'll really like this new one. Because they have refined everything in it way more to make it way more enjoyable early on. For example, you can get vehicles way earlier in this game.
Yeah. And
that helps so much.
I don't know if it was you or if it was another person we work with was saying that the combat's been overhauled.
The combat is a lot better now.
Yeah.
It's a lot more prevalent. In the first game, it was sort of like a little afterthought that they put in, and I didn't mind it much in that first game.
Like you were incentivized to avoid combat at all costs.
This game, they add and push way more into it. So, and you can also, a lot of the time, not interact with it, or you can do stealth and things like that, which is really good. It breaks it up a bit.
But you're not penalized if you have
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always penalties just damaging cargo and things like that.
And the necrotizing and everything. But that's less.
That's not really a factor because everything's non-lethal basically.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say was what was told to me by someone at work. With the previous game, unless you did very certain things, most of your weapons were lethal.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Well, this is what I was told.
Yeah. I do remember using the bowler gun a lot in the first game, which would also match up with that.
But now all of your weapons, you get a non-lethal assault rifle or something quite early.
Oh, everything, every gun I've gotten is non-lethal.
Yeah, which is good because it means you're not having to worry about.
No, well, there's so much they've added with that. But gameplay wise, really good. I'm trying to just beeline through the story so I can get it, and then it's going to be the perfect chuck on a video podcast and just fuck around game.
Side quests
because it's just you're just delivering packages.
Yeah,
that's all you do. I mean, but it is really fun the way he does it.
I mean, that sounds boring, but the first game, and again, haven't played, but this was one of the cool things that I was reading on. I don't know if the second one would do it, but I hope it does. The first game had a sort of cloud service in it where...
Yes, it's still there.
Awesome. That's
so
awesome.
Basically, in Death Stranding, it's... The whole idea is, Kojima loves to push the envelope and trying to have, new, innovative ideas in his games in Death Stranding was having a somewhat connected world. So
Yeah, it
you
had
can
multiplayer
you can drive around, walk around, and you can see other people's structures that they've built, and they're there 100% in the game. I would be having a way harder time in this game if they weren't there.
Yeah, you can make use of community built structures essentially.
Yeah.
As people traveled certain paths, those paths would become more well worn and easier to travel.
Yes.
So you could get to harder locations easier as other players were going to.
That's
them.
a different thing. So what you're talking about is, if a bunch of players go the exact same path, like there's a rock face and they all go this same path, it will eventually wear down and turn into into an all path. I was talking about because you can create structures, you can build roads, you can build charging towers,
and any player that goes past can contribute to the construction, can't they?
You can, I believe. I haven't touched it much, but those will appear in other people's games. They're not. It's not a single server where everything's there because the whole world would just be so full of shit.
Yes.
But I'm going along and I'll just see, there's just a road going most around this part of the map, hectic. Or a lot of the time it's these charging plinths to charge your vehicles. That's a godsend a lot of the time. But
or if I think one of the other things that was given to me was hey, I need to get across this chasm. I'll build a ladder and have it go across and blah blah. And then that ladder is there possibly for other players when they come along to then go along the same way.
Yeah, and then same with bridges and things like that. There's a ton in the game that's really cool like that, and that's definitely more the I've done the story, I just want to fuck around stuff. I would be a lot more inclined to do that, to deliver packages easier and make roads and everything, if there was just a bit more to unlock end game wise, which I know Kojima can do, because Metal Gear Solid 5 has got endless unlock trees, and it adds so much replay to that game. It's not as much in this one, but I don't think it's a different type of game, so I sort of get it. The other things I was going to say about Death Stranding, this is quite possibly the best looking game I've ever played. It is definitely the best looking console game I've ever played.
Okay.
It is incredible how good it is. I remember the first game being, really good. Comparing it between the two, oh my God. It is fucking insane how good this game looks. The first opening shot, because Kojima always loves a good opening, is literally Sam sitting down with Lou, who's the baby. And it just goes straight into it, and it's a massive wide open vista, and it's the famous words of Todd Howard: if you can see it, you can go there.
Yeah,
you can literally just go. I mean, behind you is blocked, I will say, because you're in a part of the game. You're in Mexico, so that would be going back up to the old map, and I don't think that's in this game. If you're in the Australian part of the map, everything you can see, you can go everywhere. But you could just go ahead, and then classic Kojima, especially with Death Stranding, you're going along, the camera starts to pan out really wide, and it's playing just one of the plenty of licensed songs that are in the game, and really, really cool moments that he's been doing with that. It looks really nice. There's plenty of moments in the game where it's like a pivotal mission, and you'll be driving or walking or riding or whatever, and it might pan out a bit so you can see the map and give it a bit more of emotion, and in the right you'll just see an artist's name come up with a song, and it'll just start playing that song in the background.
Speaking of
really
songs,
cinematic.
Again, not to cut you off before you go too much further. One of the things I've been seeing recently, and it's always the same scene, so I don't know if this song is actually in the game. There's a scene in the game from the second game. There's a song that was playing that I need to ask you, is it actually in the game? Now, recently, and I say recently, but it's been for a while, a lot of Metal Gear Solid clips have been using a particular song.
Invisible by Duran Duran?
Yes.
I don't believe that's in the game.
Okay, because there's
What was the scene?
It's with...
I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm about 15, 16 hours through.
It's Hinji or Hiji, his name? I don't remember.
Is it him cutting some dog animals up?
No.
Or dog robots up, sorry?
No, it's him summoning it's good time for a good old boss fight or something like that.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's the first. Yeah,
someone's a big
like
spider looking
the
thing.
squid spider thing in the
Yeah,
tar.
and
No.
that song, like as he disappeared, that song
that-
started playing.
No, that's not in the game.
Oh, I'm kind of disappointed now.
No. A lot of the songs that Kojima puts in these games, he's Kojima, massive film buff, massive
He chooses
music
them
nut.
for a very particular
Oh,
reason.
you go through Metal Gear, there is so many references to, especially David Bowie, but there's so many music references. In this game, it's mostly like, it's more, not even orchestral, but it's more like emotive atmosphere music by like these bigger people. Churches are in it again. They were in the first game. They've got some big songs. I like Churches. They're actually been modelled in the game. They're at a base and you go to speak to them.
Cool.
But it is also very jarring when you're supposed to be in Western Australia and then there's a very thick Scottish accent there. But I mean, Australia is a very multicultural country at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of music like that. I think, who was it? It wasn't Parkway Drive. I don't know. It was one of those like newer metal bands did a song for it called Ludens, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm actually not too sure. Don't quote me on that. But there's a lot of music in there. You wouldn't really know much of it. Silent Poets, who they did like some like atmospheric sort of music. Funny story, they did music for the first Death Stranding, or they had music and Kojima put it in the game. He just really liked it. I saw a post a while ago by, I don't know if Silent Poets is one or two or a few people or something. They posted saying, we were going to stop making music, and then Kojima found this and put it in the trailer for Death Stranding. Our popularity in streams went through the roof, and now we do this full time. Like,
Which, look,
it's really nice to see stuff like that.
we've talked about a similar topic before. Like someone, I don't know if it was for Grand Theft Auto 5 or Grand Theft Auto 6.
It's for 6.
Yeah, a band had come out saying, or I don't know if it was the band or Rockstar came out
It was
saying,
a band.
we wanted this music to be in the game.
No, Rockstar wanted to have this band, and for GTA 6, they wanted to get this, like, I think it was a little metal band or something, to be on the radio station in GTA 6. And the band was like, yeah, sure. And they offered them, I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000 for it.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we're not doing that. That's not
for
enough
that
money.
little. Which we all at the time said, that's a dumb response.
Yeah.
The exposure and like, not to say that like companies should be offering
You shouldn't be
exposure
getting
as
paid in
payment. No.
exposure. That's
No.
ridiculous.
You should
but
be getting a financial
this
payment.
being on the radio station in GTA is completely different. Completely different. This is like, I feel like they should have been paid more, but I still would have said 100% go for it. The amount of money you would have been made if you were on one of those GTA radio stations and you got leverage.
Not from GTA itself, not from Rockstar paying you, but from everyone then knowing, hey, this song's cool. I want to hear it more often, and going and buying your stuff.
Yep.
And just getting your name out there.
I got into so many artists through GTA music. So many.
Not even just GTA. Like for me,
GTA.
yes, I know you keep knocking into that one. So many games have like increased my music library where it's just like, I like that song. I want to hear it more often.
Yep.
That's all it takes.
Exactly. But yeah, no, really good choices by Kojima there. I mean, he's very stylistic and cinematic, obviously, because he's very much in the film. Also, and we're going to speak about Death Stranding for a bit more. I will say, I keep saying Kojima. It's not only him that makes these games. Kojima Productions, extremely talented team. There's so many people on there that make these big decisions. He's just obviously the main man, and he's got a lot of sway and does a lot there still. But there is a lot of people behind the scenes that also do the work, so shout out to them as well. And this would be these other people because he definitely wouldn't have a hand in this. This game has got the best load times I've ever seen.
Yeah, you did say that it was like ridiculously fast.
It is. There isn't a load time. I will get up a video of it, actually. It is insanely good. The only thing people were sort of comparing it to was Spider-Man. Like
with the transition
yes,
time.
so there is a transition one in Death Stranding as well, which is super fast. But I'm talking about the load screen to get into the game. You can close the application, load up Death Stranding, press continue, and you're in the game straight away. So look at
That's good.
Stranding to load.
Because we've been talking about load times over the last couple of episodes, because I was saying that the Switch 2, the load times on it, I was very pleasantly surprised with how fast it was. So to find that whether it's the PlayStation 5 picking that up or whether it's just the engine in Death Stranding.
I think it's both. So this engine is the one that Guerrilla Games uses. So look at this. You've already missed it. Look at this. So select a save.
And it's just
in. That's from main menu.
That would lead me to believe that it is preloading them somehow before you get to the main menu.
I don't. It might.
I don't know how they'd be doing that.
I see some people doing this. So here we go. Here's another one. This is the one that people. This one here. So that's the load. Continue. Straight into it.
Yeah, you're playing it. How long does it take to get from inserting the disc or turning on console to get to the main menu? How long does it take?
Not long enough that I even remember.
Yeah, because I don't understand how they'd be loading it that far, unless it's selectively loading areas, it just quickly loads the area right around you as fast as it can, and then
maybe
that makes sense to do it that way.
I see people online because people are like, this is so fucking fast, and everyone in the comments, there's probably hidden load screen here and here. That doesn't matter.
No,
I'm pressing continue and it's right there. I don't care how they do it. They've done it. And people are getting really angry, no, they're doing this shortcut. It's like, huh? I'm loading into the game. I think you just want to argue.
Or either that, or they just want to try and show, hey, look how smart I am. I figured it out.
Whatever. But even a lot of the fast travel, everything through it, insane. Their graphics are ridiculously good. I will be buying this on PC, I reckon.
Yeah.
It just looks so good. I was tempted to get the first one, but I think I'll give that a skip.
I can throw it your way. I've got it on PC.
Yeah, okay. This game I'm playing on a launch PS5 still looks incredible and is extremely fluid. This engine that Guerrilla Games has made for the Horizon games is unmatched. The thing is, I think it might be a little bit of a pain to develop on. But Kojima's been in that very unique space where I remember when he first left Konami and started the new Kojima Productions, and it was him and 4 other people. I remember he was putting on Instagram him traveling the world, going to all these studios to test out their engines to see what one he wanted to arrive on before the first Death Stranding, obviously.
Because when the original Horizon came out, I loved that game. That engine is so pretty. Even going back and playing it on a launch PS4, it looks great. And then you play it on PC, or you play the remastered version, or on PC. It's so pretty.
Yeah,
I can fully understand why he'd settle on that one. I'm sure there are far better optimized engines out there.
Yes, I think that's the main reason why a lot of people aren't using this.
But in terms of what it can produce, and I seem to remember the load times for the original Horizon not being terrible. Long-ish, but they weren't...
especially for a hard drive game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't awful for what it was.
I think the reason Kojima really wanted such a good engine, obviously because everyone would, and why he probably didn't want to take as many shortcuts and wanted just to get the best thing is because you've probably seen... Have you played any Metal Gear Solid 5?
No.
Konami developed an in-house engine for that game called the Fox engine, and it looks magnificent. It is amazing how good that engine is. They only ever used it for PT and I think Metal Gear Solid 5 and
Survive?
And Survive, I was about to say, yeah. They only use it for those games. I don't know if they've used it for anything else. They might have used, I don't know. But it was so pretty, and I know he would have been absolutely torn up that he couldn't use that anymore, because between Peace Walker and MGS5, it was about 4 or 5 years, but I think a lot of that time before early development, he was focused on getting this engine good. Because I remember seeing videos of him just talking about the engine and showing it off, and that was his little baby. And it was like, I've made this so I can get great gameplay, but also do all of my artistic, visionary things with my cutscenes in it really well. And then that was gone. He was like, fuck, I want something good.
Yeah.
And he's done that with Death Stranding. Won't talk about Death Stranding much longer, but there's one more thing I wanted to say. Its DNA is 100% Metal Gear Solid 5. If you got someone, blindfold them, didn't tell them anything, and they played MGS5, then played Death Stranding, they would be like, this is by the same person. It feels the same. It looks the same. Like, it looks like it could have been a Fox Engine game. Obviously, it looks a lot better, but mechanically, it feels like I'm playing MGS5, which is an extreme compliment because that game runs magnificently. Kill me. It runs great. And just actual control and movement around everything, moving your character feels amazing, and that's in this game as well. But there's so many things that, even gameplay moments and just little things in the game that are directly borrowed from that game. Like, for example, whenever you are seen by an enemy, like spotted, it will go into a slow-mo section for about like 3 seconds so you can quickly get a shot off and try and knock them out before they alert everyone else.
Yep.
That was introduced in MGS5. There's sound effects that are the same between the games, so I'm almost certain that are the same.
I mean, particularly if, like, depending on where they get their shared library from.
Yeah, I know.
It could be that they're coming from, because a lot of games have sound effects.
But I mean,
all
like
from
things
shared
as like,
libraries.
this particular thing, I feel like that's either the same thing from Metal Gear or very close.
Or possibly chosen on purpose because it's the same,
Yes. There's a lot of stuff in there. Also, he's very on the nose. There's been a clip that I've seen going around from this new game. It's a cutscene, and it's this George Miller character, and he's talking about something, and he's like, you could sort of refer it to a kind of phantom pain. It makes sense in regards to the story, but it's like, and you know what? I'm really loving it because in the first Death Stranding, I mean, it's not super obvious, but in the first game, you could very much tell he was like, I want to do something different now. But now he's mentioning Metal Gear within the game to an extent, or like referencing it in very subtle ways, or not so subtle.
Back and do another
not necessarily that, but it's also good to see him not abandon it. I would love if Kojima came back and did one more Metal Gear.
I don't think Konami would really allow it, do you?
No, but also Konami has changed a lot in that time. Like, a lot. Like, Konami's strategy for that, when Kojima got kicked out, their strategy basically became, we're just going to make pachinko machines now and going to make money off gambling. That sort of seems like it's swapped. Like, with all the Silent Hill stuff that's been going on, with the Metal Gear Solid Delta stuff, I know that's external teams doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not in-house. But
unless there's been a big shake up with like their upper management, that, because like the way I always looked at it was he left because the culture internally for Konami was like, once you got to a certain, I don't know if it was like certain age, or if it was like once you'd been there for a certain amount of time, you were basically not shuffled off, but you basically got deregulated down, or not demoted.
I don't think that's what happened. I think what the go with Konami is he was butting heads with some of the higher up people with certain things, and they weren't letting him be as free as he wanted to. I feel like I've heard that internally at Konami he was offered a lot of times to have a much higher role, and he didn't want that. He wanted to be a game developer, and I think they wanted him to be like sort of not like a CFO or CEO or anything like that, but something high up like that.
Yeah.
Just sort of like what they did, like a lot of the other famous Japanese directors of like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, they pushed them up to be department heads rather than directly involved in...
Yeah, well, even bigger than that. I think he was like... Because Kojima was a very big part in growing Konami in post arcade machine boom. Like there was your Castlevania, but with Metal Gear was a very big thing. And then obviously there's other stuff. There's Silent Hill and all these other big games that came out of Konami, but he was a very big part of it. And I think, at least from what I've heard, this could be wrong, but I think he was trying to be pushed up and he didn't want to, and that might have caused a bit of tension as well.
Yeah.
But I would love it. I don't think it's impossible, probably unlikely, but I would not be surprised if Konami, because they're letting all these big brands being made by external developers now, be like, hey Kojima, here you go. Here's Metal Gear, do what you want. It's still ours. You just have complete freedom.
Yeah.
And yeah, he could do it. He did say from Metal Gear 1 he didn't want to do another one. And then he found out. Do you know the story of why Metal Gear even happened?
I believe you've told me previously.
There's a few stories.
I cannot remember it.
This is going to be basically a Death Stranding Kojima podcast. That's what happens when Ben's here. He doesn't
let us get away with it.
No, he puts a stop on it. The reason Metal Gear is a stealth game in the first place is it was made on the MSX, which is like a Japanese home console. Mm-hmm. It was like a computer console. Couldn't support enough characters on the screen at a time to make an action game like Contra, which is another Konami product. So Kojima thought, well, why don't I make it a game where you're not trying to have that many
waves of enemies.
Yeah, and you're trying to be a bit stealthy. So he made technically sort of the first stealth game. That was it. He made Metal Gear. That was it. Yeah, okay, next game. Let's go on to Snatcher. He was on the train on the way to work and he was talking with another guy at Konami and he said, oh yeah, I'm on the team for Metal Gear 2, Snake's Revenge. And Kojima was like, what? They authorized and started making a second Metal Gear game without his knowledge. And it was basically a Contra clone sort of thing. It was like a run and gun type of game. And it was not Metal Gear. And he was like, no. So out of spite, he came and said, no, I'm making the real Metal Gear 2. So he made Metal Gear 2, which again also came out in the MSX. That one never came to the States.
No.
They made a localized version of the original Metal Gear on the NES. There's things changed. Like you don't actually fight a Metal Gear at the end of the game. It's a big fucking like a computer. But in the first game you fight a Metal Gear. So that's why.
What was the first one to be released on the PlayStation? What was
Metal Gear Solid? So Metal Gear was on the NES. Metal Gear, the first game came out in 88, I believe, or 87.
Because
Metal Gear 2.
My first Metal Gear game was on the Game Boy.
Ghost of Babel?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so they did that. Kojima did Snatcher. He went back and redid Snatcher for
How much clout would he have had back then, though?
Not much at all. No, none.
Yeah, to be able to go in there and go, hey, you're doing this.
Yeah, no, he was very bold. Like, the fact that he even got Metal Gear was weird because his first game was a game called Penguin Adventure. And it's like basically an arcade game. It's like a penguin sliding down like an endless runner type of deal.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't very good technically, and everyone sort of made fun of him.
But he had the vision.
He had the ideas.
The skill,
So I still don't know how. There's probably info online or like documentaries or something. How he got into the role of directing Metal Gear though, or like making the first one, and that gave him like people like, oh, that's a really good story, and that's how he got the clout to do Snatcher. And people really like Snatcher. He didn't fully finish it because it was on the PC-88, which is another PC console in Japan. When it came to the Sega CD, he finished it off. And then he did Police Noughts, which is also another great game, which had had references to Metal Gear in it. Same with Snatcher. There's a Metal Gear in the game. Your buddy cop character is a Metal Gear. It's a little one, which then they reference it in Metal Gear later on. And there's plenty of references to Metal Gear in Police Noughts. One of the characters is in Metal Gear. Wasn't developed at that point. But then, in 98, they made, Metal Gear Solid came out, and then it just went from there. I don't know how we even got onto this.
We were talking about like how the original ones came about.
Yeah, I just don't remember why we got onto that as well. This is going to be a bit of an all over the shop episode.
I mean, we've been doing well so far.
Yeah, we have. But yeah, so I mean, my review at the moment of Death Stranding, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
The Death Stranding 2?
Yeah, so far I have not beaten it. That could change. Some people are saying
hopefully it'll change. We're hoping you'll finish it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, shut up. Some people online are saying this is a masterpiece. I don't necessarily agree with that, just for a few reasons. I think he definitely has the ability to make another masterpiece, though. Like Kojima, I just think there's a few things that fall short in a lot of ways. I do think this game deserves all the praise it's getting, though.
Okay,
it's really good. It's just not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not a I mean, it has action in it, but like it's not an action adventure game. It's more a slow paced.
Yeah, it's a lot more actiony now, though.
Yes.
And the boss fights are like, I've only really done like a couple so far. They've been fun, like very much. Kojima was known for making really good boss fights, like making some of the most popular ones of all time and like most memorable. These aren't nothing crazy to write home about, but the set pieces are really nice.
They're enjoyable.
Some of the set pieces in this game are fucking insane. Like there's that first one, the open vista, like the Rocky Mountains, like Mexico, like South America, South United States more, I mean, was really nice. I went to this like Day of the Dead like dream sequence thing where there's fireworks fucking everywhere and it looks insane. It is like, well, it was actually this game, now that I say it, this game feels like the first PS5 game that is utilizing the console and making it feel like it is a proper game. Death Stranding 2, I feel, is the first proper new next gen game that is utilizing it all.
How hard the fans in that PS5 are working. When you're
I actually haven't heard it, but at the same time I've got the volume and everything up.
Yeah.
But it's been going great. But I think that's enough Death Stranding talk.
Yes.
I got a couple other things to say. Is there anything you wanted to bring up?
For Death Stranding, not really. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those games where I see stuff on it, but I know that what I'm seeing is not representative of the whole game. A lot of the action sequences get put up online, but I know that for the most part, it is a much slower paced exploration, walking from place to place.
One last thing I'll say. So anyone who played the original Death Stranding and didn't like the pacing, that is completely fixed. They 100%, it is way more, do a mission or two and then something big happens. Or something that's going to really make you want to keep playing. Not a lot of tedious shit for ages and you're just trying to push through to get to the next thing.
That's good. Okay.
Like, it's a lot better. And Kojima's done a lot of things to try and, like, he's addressed a lot of the complaints of the first game, which is great. That's what we always like to see. But that's enough talk for that because we've nearly talked about this game for an hour along with Metal Gear.
You could easily talk for longer.
We haven't probably even talked about Metal Gear yet, so get ready for that when I talk about all those games someday, once you guys play them. But was there any other topics you want to talk about today? I've got a few.
We can jump onto another one of yours. I probably said at the start that I had one, but I cannot remember.
Yeah, we'll wait. We've got a few topics that we're going to wait till Ben's back to talk about.
Yeah.
But one thing which you and I have talked about this before is all this drama going on. We don't really like to talk about drama much, but this one relates to a news story. Is PirateSoftware and the Stop Killing Games movement.
Yeah, you've been telling me that there has been a lot of drama. I went looking. I couldn't really find anything. Everything I get from PirateSoftware is just his, like...
Yeah, you're looking under the wrong rocks.
Apparently, yeah.
Because this is fucking everywhere at the moment. A lot of big creators have done videos on it. So basically, if people don't know, Stop Killing Games is an initiative made by a YouTuber, but I don't think it's like a big YouTuber. He's got a YouTube account. A guy named Ross, who what he wanted to do is he's put up a petition in the EU and the UK. One of them is going up in front of the EU. One of them's going up to the UK Parliament. to try and amend laws to make developers not have the ability to just destroy or remove games.
Yeah,
It's a game preservation movement to try and to make sure that games aren't lost forever.
Was it being done in collaboration with GOG?
No idea.
'Cause
I have not heard anything about GOG saying this, so I'm going to say no, but it could be. And so the idea is basically for games that people are no longer supporting. The example they use a lot is The Crew, that racing game from about 10 years ago. It was like early PlayStation 4 game. Ubisoft said they're not going to support the game anymore. There is now no longer a way to even play that game anymore.
Yeah, single player or multiplayer.
It's completely gone. So what this initiative is that they either want to get developers to support a game longer or give the community tools to be able to support the game, like community servers and things like that. Which could have been a thing in The Crew, it
could have been, because like a good example of that working is City of Heroes, I believe.
Oh, okay. Does that have?
I think it's City of Heroes. It's the one that was like it's you play as a superhero, you make a superhero. The official servers all shut down, but there were a couple of community servers that have kept the game up and running and actually kept including content in there. So
a lot of old Battlefield games do this.
Yeah.
I believe DICE has always been pretty good with that on PC. But the idea is just to not let games die and completely be gone. So if there's a multiplayer game or something that's online based, to make it so developers either need to give the tools to the public or for them to put in measures where they don't have to maybe necessarily do much with it anymore, but allow you to still play it. Because it's shit if you buy a game like The Crew and you love it, and even if you only play the single player component, you no longer can because they have turned off some sort of the
authentication
or something, because it's got some sort of DRM. So where the drama comes in, about 9 months ago, I think it was the end of last year, maybe September, October, something like that, a big streamer, not as much big back then, but pretty big now, named PirateSoftware, brought out a video and also on stream multiple times talking about this initiative and absolutely shitting on it, saying this is dumb, this is shit, this is rubbish. His big problem with it is he doesn't think. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing this. Like, if you want to know about it, look into it deeper. But his big problem is that he doesn't think that developers should have to be supporting these games super long, because it's going to be taxing and it's going to be harder for them to, like, if you're a smaller developer, to have server costs for 85 years on a game that they don't make anymore. Or, in his word, is you can't change a multiplayer game like WoW into a single player game. Like, you shouldn't have to change all of the mechanics of the game to make it a single player.
Which was not the original.
That's the thing. The big problem, he's saying all these points. There's a lot more. I'm butchering what's going on here. But there was nothing that really else happened for about 9 months. He put out these 2 videos last year and he on stream said all this stuff. Not much happened. About 2-3 weeks ago, Ross, this is a guy who started this movement, brought out a video because it's right at the end of this petition. They're probably not going to make it because it needs to be 1 million, and it was about 400,000 at the time, and it was about 3 weeks left. And he put out a video just trying to do like a final push thing and trying to debunk everything. And he said, one of our biggest detractors has been PirateSoftware. I'm not saying that he necessarily was the only reason that people haven't been signing it, but it's a big reason. He's the big, like at the time, I think was the biggest person to highlight.
Well, he was the biggest naysayer.
Or just even talk about this movement. And he fully ripped it to shreds. The problem is he fully misrepresented it. And the big one is he's saying that developers need to restructure games and
re-engineer
it to a multiplayer experience to make it a single player one. And this guy Ross is going point by point. It's like, no, we're not saying that at all.
They need to release
Yeah.
the tools so that the community can
Yes,
run the
and
server
there's-
if the developers no longer want to support it.
And at least from what I've seen, he's got this big document explaining what he thinks the steps should be. And one of the other things he says is like, there should be a grace period. It shouldn't be just a pushed all on the developer, oh, just do this now, fuck you around. It's like, obviously give them leeway to try and develop something and make it easier on them as well.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to shit on them because people are going to stop making things if it's too hard and it's going to have this all this stuff going on, whatever. But the other thing that Pirate Software was saying is that he doesn't like that this is being brought to their version of a parliament or some sort of board that has a deciding factor, because he doesn't like that it's going to be up to people who probably have got no idea on this and they might make too strict laws or not strict enough laws, which I can see.
I can see the logic there, but
I think it's very misguided. There's a lot more he says. I don't have this here. I'm going off the top of the dome that he disagrees with that is blatantly false or lies or misunderstanding. The big thing is, so Ross put out this video saying, hey, this isn't what the go is here. Like, you're misrepresenting everything that we've got going on with this. And he tried to do his one final push. Brought up a bit more attention, so bigger people like Moist Critical.
yes,
He did a video about it saying, stop killing games, and he talked about it, and he's like, I really like this movement because we don't want games to die. There's a few other people, some ordinary gamers, Mudaha, if you know him. He also put up a video talking about it. This is where the drama really happens. Moist Critical puts out another video, like a couple days later, going in on Pirate Software and blowing up and talking about this movement, because he ended up, after the first video, he had like a 2 or 3 hour back and forth with him over message, and he just would not back down and was being extremely stubborn.
I've heard that's a
Common thread.
thing for Pirate Software. Is
Yes.
like, he seems very knowledgeable.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Yeah.
A lot of people also saying he comes across and can be
My way or the
very
highway.
arrogant.
Yes. Like, everyone has their moments where they can be very up themselves and, no, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you type of deal. It's been a very consistent pattern.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of this. And Charlie, Moist Critical, was like, he said, I just had to stop because he just kept going in circles and I was really trying. He was saying there's certain things that he was being somewhat receptive at, but he just could not admit that he was wrong for certain things. This was a going on cycle with people on Twitter. Again, he would just double down, triple down, quadruple down on things that were just blatant lies. And it was, I don't know, in perception to seem like he wasn't wrong or lying. Some people have sort of come out and they might have realized why he has said some of these things. This is a very loose idea. Pirate Software is also a game developer, so that's why he feels like he's got, I guess, the higher ground.
He used to work for Blizzard, then worked for Amazon Games.
He loves to talk about that. He used to work for
Yes,
Blizzard.
he worked in their security, their online.
He was apparently his QA, quality control.
Oh, okay. What I was always told, from what I can find,
I know. There's been, well, that's another thing, is apparently there's been a lot of changing stories from him.
Right.
So
okay.
that's another thing, yeah.
But then, he apparently went to work for Amazon Games.
Amazon Games, yeah.
And
then
now
he's indie.
Yeah, working his own studio. Heartbound, I think, is the game.
Is the game, yes. So he's a developer, and that's why he feels like he has a stronger understanding of why this could be concerning, these rules and everything like that, or these.
But other than what some of the games he worked on for other companies, his own release game is not multiplayer. It is single player.
Well, let me get to this. So that's why he feels like he's going to have a better idea about this. A lot of other developers chiming in on Twitter saying, no, this seems like a really good initiative. We want, I would love to see some of the games I had worked on still be around and enjoyed by people. I think it's great that they do this. Very much disagreeing. He's had some arguments with some people who've, to be bluntly, worked on a lot more and a lot bigger games than him, and probably had a bit more of a important role and understanding as well. So one of the reasons that people think that Pirate Software is a bit annoyed by this thing is that his single player game has DRM.
Yes.
So you cannot play it unless it's online.
Unless it's logged in through Steam. The DRM, I know what the DRM is for it.
It's so people have gone through it. His DRM is because the game progress is tied to your Steam achievements.
Yes, as you earn achievements in the game, that determines what powers you have unlocked. So if you pirate the game, you don't have the achievements, it will never save for you.
Yes, so that's the idea. Apparently, a lot of people are bringing out this is something that there is a lot of other ways to circumvent that and get that same desired idea without having Steam achievements and tying it to that. Apparently, there's some back-end DRM things that he is not being anywhere as much clear about.
Oh, you mean there's other DRM in it?
Well, I think the reason is that I'll need to look into this more. At this point, I'm just going off a couple of things I've seen. It seems like his whole idea, which is cool about connecting it to the Steam achievements and being able to play through it like that, can also be achieved without using this DRM. People have brought that up. No, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And the stubbornness comes in with him just almost assuming that he's always on this high pedestal, at least from what I've seen. So people are getting really annoyed at him for that. The other thing is that it's drawn a lot more attention to this game. Apparently, it hasn't really been getting updated much at all, and people are now sort of considering it abandonware.
I thought it was finished.
Well, apparently it isn't, at least from what I saw. It's because the game came out like 6 years ago, but I think it was in parts or something like that. Or he isn't updating it. There's something along those lines. I really don't know at this point. But there's been a lot of stuff going on with it. Fuck, there was something else I was going to say.
Which, well, just on what you've said there, while you think on that, if the game's out and it's finished, I don't see why you would need to constantly be relying on updates for it. Fair enough, bug fixes and, we've fixed this problem, so on and so forth. But updates in terms of new content, if the game's out and finished, I wouldn't expect there to be more content. Having new content coming out for a game that I bought ages ago is amazing. The fact that I don't know if you would remember it, Dungeon Defenders.
Not really, no.
Was I used to play it with some friends way back in early 2010s. It's been out for ages. They then released a sequel. They tried to do a remaster. Everyone thought the game had been forgotten about. Just last year, maybe a year and a half ago, they started bringing out more new content for the original game. Because everyone still loves the original game. The sequel fell through because they changed too much. The remaster, from what I saw, never really took off either. The original game was still, everyone loved it. And so they went back and started bringing out new content for it. They released new heroes, new levels, new everything. Having stuff come out for an old game that you're still playing, amazing. If it's a single-player game, it's finished, it's out, other than bug fixes, I would not be expecting updates. And past a certain point, 6 years down the line, sure, I'd be expecting updates to be drying up at that point. I wouldn't be expecting bug fixes for a 6-year-old game. I'd love to have them. But I'm not expecting a company to be investing a lot of time on that unless it's something that is heavily breaking the game and stopping people from actually playing it or any game-breaking bug, I would expect them to go back and fix. But smaller, minor things I can't play it on this particular machine because it's not compatible with this brand new hardware.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're just going to have to figure out another way around that yourself.
Yeah. There was another thing to do. This was a bit more just character of Pirate Software, not the stop killing game stuff, but sort of leads into it. Is that the big detracting argument people have against him is that it looks like he's almost got a superiority complex and he really wants to make sure he's right and the smartest person in the room.
I definitely believe he would have that. Yeah, just like from watching him and listening to him.
Yes.
Yep. He comes across that way.
There has been multiple instances on stream where he has been faking seeing games for the first time. Do you know Animal Well? The game that came out last year that people love. It won a ton of awards.
Oh, it rings a bell. I can't picture it though.
I'll get the cover of it.
Show me the thing and I'll probably remember it. Oh well. Yeah, it rings a real bell. I just don't know. Yes, I do know.
Animal Well. It was Video Game Donkey's new not developer but publisher put it out. It won a ton of awards. It's like a great little game.
Metroidvania sort of style.
Yes. It's got a secret ending in it that is like a super convoluted thing. It took 2 weeks for the whole community to find it. When he was playing it, he said, I've never played this game before. Never played it. Got right to the end. I bet this is this. This is this. He solved the secret ending instantly. He had gone through and watched people play it, then went back and acts like he'd never seen it and acts like he found this ending himself to try and seem that he was so smart. He's like, I bet you this is like a highlight from here. Yeah, it is. It is. It's like really bad acting when you go back and look at it.
Yeah.
And people sort of called him out. It was like, the fuck are you on about type of deal. Also, I think there was a leaked thing where he was like, I played this whole game on stream. He's like, oh, look, this is the first time I'm playing it. And for like a split second, his Steam
it would have shown how long he'd been playing.
He said he'd been playing for 41 hours. He'd actually been up for 83 or something like that. Yeah. So there was that. And I think there was another game as well where he pretended that he knew something, like he had never seen it and went and looked this super convoluted thing up and acted like he found it out straight away. Which to me, that seems like such extra work to go out of your way to make yourself seem like you are smart.
Yeah.
It seems like something a child would do.
Yes.
That's something that I feel like I would have done when I was 12 to seem like I'm really smart. You don't know what you're talking about. Type of thing. Just like unnecessary bragging. That was something, and that was more just validity to other arguments people had around it.
Yeah. Do we happen to know what age he is? Is he like late 20s, early 30s?
No, I think he's mid 30s or something. Also, that's another thing. People think that his voice is fake.
I have seen him address that. Where he showed previous clips of his.
Yeah. And then he said that he's had a second puberty.
Oh, no, he said it was like a second puberty where your voice can develop further.
Yes.
I don't think he said it is a second puberty. He just said it's like it is similar to the effects as though you went through puberty a second time.
Apparently this is just getting into straight drama at this point, but apparently there's somewhat recent videos of him speaking how he used to speak.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's him putting it on, which I mean that's more of an insecurity thing. So, I mean,
no one likes how they sound.
Yeah, I mean, I sound pretty cool. Epic gamer.
You're also used to it because like you work with cameras and film.
Yeah, I don't shut up and I hear myself every day.
I mean, when I listen to myself back, I'm happy having this recorded because for me, it's also getting used to how I sound.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I'm definitely at a way more comfortable point with my voice now. I know a lot of people hate it and like, no, I don't want to see myself on video. I don't want to hear it, blah, blah, blah. You get used to it. You really do. It just takes a while. And most people aren't exposed to this type of thing this much, this often.
No.
So most people just don't have it.
Tying back into what we were talking like a little bit before about actors and all that, I know plenty, well, I don't know them, but I know of stories about plenty of actors who refuse to go and watch their own movies because they do not want to see themselves.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard a lot of actors not seeing their own movies because they want to keep it as like the experience I had on set or being like a bit more real. But that's a bit more artsy-fartsy.
I've heard one or two like that, but the others have all been ones like I feel like I can't watch myself. I just cringe inwardly when I watch myself acting like that. And it's just like, okay, that's fair enough. You don't like watching yourself on film. And I mean, you don't need to go and see the film. You were there. You acted it. You know what happens in it.
This is unrelated. I just saw this earlier today and I thought it was funny. I saw a thing like on Twitter. It was like, oh, my dad's friend or my dad in the 80s asked Steve Jobs for an autograph. And this is what he wrote back. Let's see if this wants to load. It's a letter from Apple Computer Inc. May 11th, 1983. Dear M. Varen, I'm honored that you would write, but I'm afraid I do not sign autographs. Sincerely, Steve Jobs, and he signed it. Because it's just an official letter back. This has got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
That is funny. Yes.
Funny, Steve Jobs was still an awful human.
Yeah. For every person saying, oh, he was great, he had all these blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 stories about how he was.
Oh, more than 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs was one of those people where I think he was a terrible person, but also necessary. Because if you worked for Steve Jobs, more likely than not, you probably fucking hated him as a person because he was so rude and evil even.
Yeah.
But he also just thought in a different way to innovate. I mean, like, there's a famous story of that when he wanted the iPod to come out, and he said, we need it smaller, we need it smaller, we need it smaller. And like, there was a road show or something, or might have been like WWDC or like their event or something, that he was going to show it off in like 2 weeks, and they brought it out to him in his office, and he was like, they were like, it's as small as it can get. And this is the only prototype. He walked over to his fish tank and dropped it in. And he saw air bubbles come out. He said, there's air bubbles there. There's air in there. There's more space. Fucking make another one.
If true, yeah, that's
insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what the fuck? But at the same time, that also led to the iPod that we have now.
Yeah.
Or had 20 years ago.
Yeah,
and it's
went
trickled
down
down
the line to it.
And it's just like, it sucks. It sucks when people need to be such assholes to get stuff like that done. But, well, this is another example of that. There's a story of Steve Jobs bought some land in California years and years and years ago. It was a historic house, and he didn't want the house. He just wanted the land. But it was like heritage listed. It was like some really famous house that had some really important history, and everyone wanted to keep it. But he wanted to bulldoze it. Legally wasn't allowed to. So what he did is he left it and neglected it for 15 years or something like that, where it got so dilapidated that he had the right to be able to bulldoze it. Bulldoze it, then he died 2 weeks later or something. And it's just like, man, you don't have to be a fucking asshole. You've got the money there, just leave it somewhere a bit different.
Yeah.
Like, there was so many little stories like that, but then there's also so many stories of he innovated so much. And you can be an Apple hater, but I mean, there's a reason that people will remember him for a long, long time.
Yeah, I know that, like, lots of people, there's stories working under him about how, like, he wouldn't let anyone quit. If you went in to quit, somehow you'd be ending up working for another 2 years, and like all these other stories about.
He also fired a lot of people though. Like, he was notoriously really rough.
Yeah.
Very interesting, I will say. I think the story of Apple's always been very interesting. You don't really see, like, I'm going to say software, but like, or hardware. You don't really see famous people in that type of space.
Bill Gates.
But that's the only other one. It's Bill Gates.
Steve Wozniak.
Yeah, but that's still him. That's still Apple. Bill Gates, Steve Wozniak. And they're like the early days type of guys.
All the big pioneers, yeah.
Yeah, there's people later on in Microsoft.
What I would say is, like, you and I mean, Ben as well, anyone who is a gamer or is heavily invested in tech as we are, would know a lot of names from people in that industry.
Yes, most people don't. Most people will know Steve Jobs and Bill Gates.
But that, by that same token, if I go and ask Ben about, like, F1 races or, Formula 1 stuff, Ben's going to know way more names than I am, because I'm just not interested in it at all. I've got no reason to remember any.
Do you know any of the names though?
No.
I reckon you would.
McLaren.
That's a car, man.
That's all I know about
tire,
cars.
petrol.
Yeah. No, I'm sure if like put on the spot, I could possibly come up with a name that I've heard at some point. But
I know. I mean,
I know
it's
nothing
just a big player.
about cars or racing or Formula
okay.
1.
Here's something completely different that I'm knowledgeable in that you are not. Can you tell me any guitar brands?
And now see, I'm struggling to remember what.
I reckon there's 2 you could tell me easy.
I should, and I know that there are names in the back of my mind, and we'll probably finish recording, and I'll be like, oh,
yeah,
such and such, Lee Gibson or whatever.
Gibson. There you go. There's Gibson. There's one of the big 2, and then there's one more that I think you would know.
No, Stratocaster is not a brand.
That's a type of guitar. It's the most famous type. Yeah.
Gibson. It's like Fendcaster or something. Fender.
Yeah. Because they got the Telecaster and the Stratocaster.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean they're 2 big ones because they're like super well known. Like I don't expect you to know all these random things like ESP and I mean you might have heard of Ibanez before and a couple of brands like other guitar brands like Taylor or Martin.
Yeah.
I mean like you're not gonna know that. You'd know Yamaha.
Oh,
because they do everything.
Yes, they do.
I was looking at a new guitar today. I haven't bought one in years, and it was a Yamaha. And I was like, oh, okay, I might get that in my
Why are you
my
buying
chainsaw.
a guitar? You've got so many.
No, it's an acoustic. I haven't bought an acoustic in probably about 8 years. Yeah, no, I've got enough other ones. But no, I mean, like, there's certain people and certain brands or things
everyone has that
people
area,
are going to know the big ones.
Everyone has that area of interest where they know stuff about the background of it and people involved in it. But then when you take them out of that and push them into something else, they're not going to have any idea on it. So I completely understand why, hey, these are big names. People know them because they were the biggest and most
I do think the Steve Jobs story is really fascinating. Like how he was in Apple, got kicked out of Apple, formed Pixar, then came back to Apple and rose it up through their ashes, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff there that I think's really cool. And he started a couple other companies, I think, as well, that got either absorbed into Apple or absorbed into other things that were really big. Like he had that, he had that drive, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Still an asshole.
Which I think, unfortunately, doesn't quite go hand in hand, but a lot of, not just auteurs, but like a lot of big influential people, they need that drive to get them there. And because of that, they need to be able to not necessarily ignore naysayers, but be able to be confident enough and vocal enough to essentially drown them out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, going back to Kojima, I don't think I can't think of anyone who has a bad word to say about Kojima. I'm sure there are some people that are like, oh, he said this to me once.
I've heard like little things, but it's not like, I don't really hear much.
Yeah.
A lot of those, I mean, to be fair, a lot of those developers I don't really hear much. I have heard actually bad things about Miyamoto before.
Yes. The one I was going to go to, because he's definitely an auteur, and now I can't think of his name, guy who made Black and White and Fable, Peter Molyneux.
Oh, Peter Molyneux, yeah. I don't
a visionary of a different type.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call him an auteur, but yeah.
Definitely influential. Definitely brought out some big name games that like changed like how things were looked at.
Yep.
But also a very odd man that...
very, very odd man.
Yes. Definitely like prone to hyperbole and promising more than he could deliver.
Yep.
But, I mean, look at some of the games that have come out in recent years as well. That's not exactly uncommon nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, he started the trend.
Yeah. But he's also one where, like, for every nice story about him, there's 3 or 4 that are just like, this dude was odd, this dude was weird.
Yes. That's basically all I've heard about Peter Molyneux.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
You go.
There is another podcaster / streamer online
Personality?
creator. Personality, yeah, but I'd more call him a content creator. Laura Kate Dale.
Okay.
Works a lot with Stephanie Sterling from Jimquisition.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They apparently interviewed Peter Molyneux some years back.
Yep.
And have on recording somewhere that they've just been keeping for a rainy day, a interview with him. I don't know if it's a video interview or just a audio one, of him breaking down in tears and just like sobbing about like how like all misunderstood, how everything went wrong with all this other stuff, and like a weird interview, but one of those ones where like everything was so emotional. It was like, this is gold. I have liquid gold in my hands right now. I'm gonna put it away and save it for like a rainy day. I would love to see that interview because like, I've seen stuff where NoClip has gone and spoken to him about like the Black and White series and that, and he seems very contrite and reserved now. But then you look at him like when he was on stage with certain things and like how his interviews about the Fable games were, as soon as they're working on the next one, he's like, no, the last Fable game was shit. We did that wrong. The next one's going to be great.
Yeah, it's always looking to the future, but just to divert from the shit that they've done in the past. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. There isn't a ton of, I mean, there is a few, but there isn't like a massive ton of recognizable faces in the gaming industry that I would say
are well known enough that you would know them outside of the gaming industry. Yeah.
I feel like there's only a couple. I only say Kojima now because he's injected himself into so much modern pop culture, especially with actors.
Yeah.
So many people know him now because of that. Like, for example, the way that Norman Reedus got into doing originally PT was because
it was originally going to be Silent Hill, wasn't it?
Well, no, that's what PT was.
It was a trailer.
Yeah, no, but the reason why he got attached to that project was because he got a call from Guillermo del Toro saying, you're going to get a call from this guy called Hideo Kojima. Just say yes. Just say yes to it. And that's when Kojima called up about, hey, do you want to star in this game? And that's because he got that, and then those connections just started sprouting off, and he met this person, and he's just somewhat known in this public space. I mean, for example, Ben and I had tickets to it. Sadly, we were not allowed to go to an event with Kojima and George Miller for Sydney Film Festival.
Yes, they were there speaking to
about the new game, and then about just George Miller as well being a director and probably the most famous Australian one.
It would have been unreal to go.
It would have. I don't want to think about it anymore. But that just shows he was at Sydney Film Festival, Kojima. Like, he's getting known that well now, which he would have loved.
Oh yeah,
he would have loved that. But you don't see too many people like that who are really front-facing that people know.
I can think of big names in the games industry.
One of the closest ones I would say is probably Gabe.
Gabe Newman, yeah. No.
Newell. Gabe Newell.
No, yeah. I always say it wrong. I'm sorry. But see, I'd actually say that's a bit less well known. Known inside the industry, outside the industry only if you had any connection to Valve.
See, the thing is though, because Valve is Steam and Steam is so fucking big, I sort of...
But if you don't play games, you don't know what Steam is, really. Unless someone else has explained
but I'm
it.
just... the fact that how many
computers
computers Steam...
Like, I sell games. I sell gaming equipment. The amount of times I've had to explain to someone what Steam was,
I
understand. A lot.
I understand that, but it is also so popular now. Insanely. It's one of the biggest marketplaces for anything ever. I will say, I feel like Gabe Newell is probably one of the richest people in the world. People don't realize that.
Yeah. See, the name I was going to say would be, and I mean, Todd Howard.
Nah, not out of the industry.
No, I would say if you know if you knew what Fallout was, if you watched the show and were like, oh, cool, that was a good show, you'd probably see that name floating around.
I don't think so. I think if you're in the game industry. He's one of the bigger
names in the game industry.
Yeah.
But he is definitely a name that, like, unless you know of something that's kind of directly attributed to him, you don't know of him outside the games industry. I would say Gabe's on a lower, like, even more niche level.
I'm saying it more because going back to him being extremely rich, I think he's very well known in a lot of the business circles, probably for being how.
Yeah.
Because you got to think. I'm going to go back to this. Gabe Newell is, I think, one of the richest people in the world. People probably don't know this. He might not necessarily be super high up there, but he's got a lot more money than people think, because how he started Valve with a few of the other guys was he was one of the Microsoft millionaires. He worked at Microsoft during that really small team where they brought out the first consumer-ready versions of Windows, where that early on team, they made a fuck ton of money. If you worked at Microsoft before a certain point, you are set. He was in that team. He left, started Valve. Half-Life was a major success, and then from there, Half-Life 2, but it's Steam. He owns a majority share of Valve, I'm assuming.
Did we want to quickly check what his net worth is?
Yeah,
sure. That might give us an idea. Because, like, I know, like, when you see, like, the list of richest people you never knew of, like, they earn...
Can you put your pop filter back on? There we go.
Sorry. They earn... Like, the amount that they have is ridiculous.
9.5 billion.
Has been estimated as one of the wealthiest people in the United States. Wealthiest person in the video game. Wealthiest person in the video game industry, I'd fully believe that without a shadow of a doubt.
How rich is Gabe Newell? Yeah. See, this is the thing, because of Steam that I think that he's up there.
But also 9.5 billion, that's not that much compared to a lot of rich people.
Let's have a look at someone like I think Gina Reinhardt is the richest person in Australia.
Yes.
So Gina Reinhardt. If people don't know who Gina Reinhardt is,
30.3 billion.
So I mean, like, and she's 56 in global.
Yeah.
I mean, like, 9.5 to 30 billion, still a big stretch, but also that does show he's up there. He's definitely in the 1%.
He's up there, but like, yeah, the 1%, like, you got to remember, like, when you say, like, oh, she's 56 and he's like 20,000 behind her. And then, but you're also thinking, like, yeah, but then top 100 in
also, actually, you've got to think a lot of these people, Elon Musk's number one.
Yeah.
363 billion. And then Mark Zuckerberg. Compared to, like, Gina Reinhardt, who, 50, Bill Gates is 5, Larry Ellison, I don't know who that is, Jeff Bezos, of course. Steve Ballmer, which is who took over Bill Gates basically at Microsoft. I'll leave the rest of that. But what I was going to say is, comparing someone like Gina Reinhardt to Gabe Newell is, Gina Reinhardt, she made her money because her dad owned all these mines, and she owns these mines, and that 30 billion is probably assets, not dollars. Valve isn't as much assets. It's more dollars he would probably have, because you got to think,
maybe
he doesn't own mines. He's got a building. There's probably a lot of stuff.
Multiple buildings that are just server buildings.
I know, but it's not the same as a mine. That's millions of dollars to run, type of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's running it off this.
I mean, here's what I will say. Looking just like quickly running down that list, probably one of the nicest people on that list, for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone on that list, as soon as I read that, like, names, I'm just like, asshole, scumbag, dickhead, fuckwit.
Everything I've heard about Gabe Newell is that he can be stern when he needs to, but just a super nice, accommodating guy. Like, really good. One bit of, like, fact about Gabe Newell is that for a long time, if you emailed him, he would respond.
Yeah.
He would go through his personal emails and respond to people all the time. Done so many great things. Like, I don't hear much bad about him. People are always going to have some nitpicky thing to say, and there might be some controversy that I don't know about, but at least from what I know, there's a reason people still worship Gaben. It's been a long time since I've heard people talk about Gaben, but he's also getting up there in age, though. And with that, we're getting up there in time for this episode. That was 138. We're nearly about, like,
hour and a half.
More than an hour and a half, about an hour and 40. I could keep going. There's a lot to talk about this time.
We had a few other things. But
maybe Ben's holding us back. Maybe we kick Ben off.
Well, last time we did a longer than an hour and a half episode, we had a few comments about how long it was. So
Did we?
yeah, I mean, I had comments directly to me.
Oh no, more content. Jacob will like it.
Jacob will like it. Brennan
Jedi
will
Farmer
like it.
will like it. Jeremy will like it.
They
There we
would.
go. There's four viewers. All right. Well, Brock, is there something you've got to say?
Yes, we will save it there.
Yeah. Fuck you, Brendan. He said it. All right. See ya.